Why Hapkido is effective in a street fight. A martial art created to subdue opponents in street fights or for a practical correction situation, we present to you another type of self-defense and combative martial art called Hapkido. This is yet another martial art that combines several ranged and close combat techniques and also employs the use of traditional weapons. This is a broad martial art that is made up of various styles. And although the modern Hapkido is completely used for self-defense, it can cause a lot of pain for the attacker. So in today's video, we'll be looking at the martial art Hapkido and why it can be effective in a street fight for self-defense. With that, welcome back to today's video. And if you're new here, welcome as well. So sit back and get comfortable as we get into it. History. That said, let's take a little trip down memory lane. Hapkido is a South Korean martial art that dates back to the early 20th century and was created as a defense art against the Aikido fighters from Japan with roots that date back to Buddhism. However, over the years, this art has evolved to be modernized into the unique Korean art which we call Hapkido, courtesy of Choi Young-sul. So presently, Hapkido is considered the second most popular Korean martial art and is also referred to as the art of coordinated power. But what does the name Hapkido really mean? First, it's important to know that this is a combination of three different words: hap, meaning coordination, ki, meaning power, and do, meaning path of discipline, hence the name Art of Coordination. With a name like that, you can guess that it's one brutal martial art that can be very effective only if taught correctly. Its techniques are designed in ways that are meant to incapacitate your opponent. Many people will say that the Korean Hapkido and Japanese Aikido have a lot in common, but that isn't entirely true as they both have very different philosophies, the manner in which they execute techniques, and the range of responses. Style/techniques. Generally, Korean martial arts are categorized by discipline, unity, control, and of course self-defense, and have more than 25 forms practiced all over the world. Therefore, there are various styles and techniques that can be employed when faced by attackers. So several Hapkido schools focus on different techniques. Regardless of all these schools, make sure to cover some of the fundamental techniques, and all of these techniques make sure to obey the laid out principles, which include the flowing principle, the circle principle, and lastly, the blending principle. Starting from the bottom, let's look at the blending of harmony principle. This principle is mainly based on staying relaxed and squarely opposing an opponent's face. So in the case where your opponent is coming for your chest, instead of immediately resisting or pushing back, you're expected to blend with the opponent while making sure there's no direct confrontation. While the circle principle is a means of gaining speed to execute these techniques naturally and smoothly, so if you attacked with, say, a punch or they thrust a knife at you, your best means of defense would be to redirect the force by dominating the attack in a circular pattern, making easy to combine both the power of the opponent with yours. And then there's the flowing principle, which is somewhat like the concept of a moving target. This kind of martial involves fluid or flowing movements and doesn't depend on violent force against the opponent's force. And so, just like water, this technique is a versatile entity where the trained Hapkido diverts the strike of his opponent, similar to flowing water being divided around stone, just for it to come back and cover it. As a martial artist, you're expected to be familiar with the fact that fighting happens at particular distances, which are popularly labeled as punching, grappling, kicking, and trapping range. Another important thing that needs to be understood is that soulfulness in just one of these ranges isn't promising for success when you get involved in a street fight. Why? Well, it's simple. When you're confronted or challenged, it goes from one range to another as quickly as possible. Many practitioners believe that they're privileged to learn this style of art that involves very powerful kicks, different hand strikes, very effective trapping range techniques, and flexible joint locks and throws. And unlike the martial arts from other countries, those from Korea are very equipped for fighting in kicking range. Hapkido as we know it is not so different from other martial arts, except for the fact that its leg techniques are quite different from others because of how much power is delivered by rolling or rotating on the supporting foot. Following that with full leg motion, high spinning heel kicks, and identical techniques are quite difficult. However, they are very much feasible because it involves the element of surprise. Considering the fact that your opponents are very likely to not be trained, they definitely won't expect you to jump in the air or 360 spinning heel kick and actually land it. Speaking of kicks, Hapkido is made up of several types of kicks, such as sweep kicks to the back of the leg, kicks to the knee, shin, ankle, and feet, hooking kicks to the back of the leg, stomping kicks, blade kicks to the shin, muscle-tearing kicks, and toe in the throat kick, and the funny truth is that this list goes on and on. Aside from this long list of kicks, this art also involves a couple of knee and elbow strikes that can be used on your opponents. And immediately, you get your opponent into kicking range. The hand techniques can be employed, and they're mostly straight karate-style punching and open hand strikes. And basically, the idea is to aim for your opponent's weak points, which, as we mentioned earlier, bring your opponent another element of surprise. Another thing that makes Hapkido very effective is the fact that these Hapkido lessons teach you how to be defensive against a number of attackers and even how to defend when you're on the ground. As you advance in training, you learn defense approaches against armed attacks and how to use some of these arms because it teaches dominance and control. It's perfect for smaller individuals, and regardless if your opponents are stronger than you still have the upper hand because it's mostly about technique. With all this, I think it's safe to say that Hapkido will be very effective if you employ it in a street fight. So if you've ever considered learning a martial art or art for self-defense, then this should definitely be on your list. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, then do well to smash that like button and subscribe. If you'll love more content like this, ring the bell notification so you don't miss an upload, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.